Hollywood Forever Cemetery sits on 62 acres with over 80,000 grave sites. You can see the Hollywood sign from the front of the cemetery. It's very cool. This is one of the oldest cemeteries in LA, and a veritable who's who of celebrities are buried here. This is the grave of Cecil B Demille, and one of the more famous movies that he made was The 10 Commandments. I want to pause here for just a moment to show you the beautiful stained glass of Mihai Icab's memorial. He was a Romanian film director and screenwriter. It's just beautiful. This is Johnny Ramone's memorial, and this is just a cenotaph. He's not actually buried here. His wife has his remains. He was the guitarist in the punk rock group The Ramones. He died of prostate cancer. His sculpture here was done by artist Wayne Toth. And then right next to Johnny Ramone is Chris Cornell of Soundgarden and Audioslave. He was cremated, and his ashes have been buried here. He was said to have committed suicide by hanging himself, but there is some dispute as to whether it really was an intentional suicide or a result of some of the drugs that he was taking. As I cross over the street, I'm coming to the Cathedral Mausoleum, and right outside of it is a memorial to Toto. This is a Cairn Terrier who was actually named Terry. It was a female dog, and she starred in The Wizard of Oz. Her ashes and body are not here. They were buried on the ranch of her trainer, and that was destroyed when they were building the Ventura Highway. Walked over here to Anton Yelchin, and he is best known for playing Chekhov in the more recent Star Trek movies. He was tragically killed when his Jeep rolled back and crushed him against the gate to his house. Mickey Rooney has a place here on the outside of the Cathedral Mausoleum. He appeared in more than 300 films. Now, let's go inside the Cathedral Mausoleum. This is an extraordinary place. As I come in the doors, you can see that there are several statues here, and these statues represent the 12 apostles plus St. Paul. And throughout this entire building, there is just this beautiful stained glass. Different hallways break off, and at the end of each of these hallways is a different picture done in stained glass. Also within this mausoleum is Peter Lorre. He actually was a co-star in one of my most favorite movies of all time, Casablanca, and I remember in that him yelling, "Reek! Reek!" because he wants Rick to save him from being taken away by the Nazis. As I work my way towards the back of the Cathedral Mausoleum, tucked into a corner, it's hard to believe that it is tucked into a corner, but this is the final resting place of the Sheik, Rudolph Valentino. There is a haunting that goes on here from the woman in black. This was a woman who used to come by and leave a flower, roses in particular, next to his grave for years and years after his death. It's believed that this woman is Dietra Flame. She'd been seriously ill in the hospital when she was a little girl, and Valentino was friends with her mother, and he came to the hospital and he brought her a single red rose, and he whispered to her, "You're not going to die at all. You're going to outlive me by many years, but one thing for sure, if I die before you go, will you please come and stay by me because I don't want to be alone either. You come and talk to me." And so she did. She would come to his grave and bring a rose, and people think that she is continuing to do that after her death. And sometimes a rose will just appear in the vase out of nowhere. Disembodied footsteps have been heard here inside the Cathedral Mausoleum as well. And some people claim that it feels like they're being watched. Right across from Rudolph Valentino is Peter Finch, and he starred in the movie Network. He is the man who leans out the window and yells, "I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore." Great movie. One surprising element of the cemetery are the peacocks. They have several in pens that are on the side of the cemetery. Judy Garland's grave. She died in 1969 at the age of 47 from a drug overdose. Her most well-known role, of course, was as Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. She spent 45 of her 47 years performing, and she was wonderful. This is the mausoleum that's in the lake that is surrounded by the Garden of Legends, and this has Johnny Ramone and Chris Cornell buried around it. Jane Mansfield is here as well. This is the memorial to Douglas Fairbanks, and his son Douglas Fairbanks Jr. has been buried here as well. Another haunting that is going on here is Virginia Rappe. She was a silent film actress, also an alcoholic, and she went to a party that was hosted by Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, and her bladder ruptured while she was there. Now, some people claim it was because an orgy was going on there and that she'd been raped, and Fatty Arbuckle had been accused of that rape, but he was acquitted, but it ruined his life. No one knows for sure if it's because of her tragic death or whatever circumstances surrounded that, if that is why she is continuing to live on in the afterlife, but people say that they feel cold spots and hear the sounds of a woman sobbing near her grave. Also buried here is Mila Nurmi, who is more well known as Vampira. She was the first ever television horror host, and she was out in the 1950s. Mila based her character of Vampira after Morticia Addams. She made her skin pale white, and she wore a tight black dress. Eventually, she hosted the Vampira show from 1954 to 1955, and she also appeared in Ed Wood's cult film Plan 9 from Outer Space. Another person who's said to haunt the cemetery is Clifton Webb. He appeared in the films Cheaper by the Dozen and Laura, and he played Mr. Belvedere in Sitting Pretty, Mr. Belvedere Goes to College, and Mr. Belvedere Rings the Bell. He had a heart attack when he was 76. He's buried in the Abbey of the Psalms Mausoleum. Visitors claim to see his apparition in a suit at the crypt and to hear whispering voices and see strange flickering lights as well. And sometimes The scent of his cologne is detected. Are there ghosts here at Hollywood Forever? I don't know for sure, but I know that this is a cemetery that I had been dying to visit, and I was so excited that I got to spend a little bit of time in LA and got to make a stop there. It's definitely a place you want to check out. It's beautiful, peaceful. A lot of the burials here are for people who are of Romanian or Russian descent, and a lot of Jewish burials as well. Just a wonderful, wonderful place to visit.